Hey guys, I wanted to post a couple of videos because I'm making some changes to the repo that we have. We are collaborating, and that means that we also have to set up our files in such a way that we can collaborate on them. So this is the first of I think 4 videos, and the first thing that I want to do is separate out these endpoints. I think I've talked about that during the class as well. Why? Because if we keep making endpoints like this, for example, we now have to-dos, soon we'll be adding users, this file is just going to grow very quickly and it's going to be very hard to keep the overview. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to put all these endpoints in a separate file, but also in a separate folder, and I'll show you how. So the first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to make a new folder, and I'm going to call it lib for library. And this is a very common practice in Node. You can also call it something else, but basically this just means this is the folder that contains all of the stuff. Within lib, we are only going to have folders, no files. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to make another folder, call it controllers. So controllers is the term is something that you've heard with AngularJS before. So a controller is, like the word says, it is a thing that controls, in this case, a data model. So within this folder, we are only going to write controllers, nothing else. There's not going to be, for example, a logging module or something like this, something that's not a controller. So there are rules to the things that can be within controllers. So within controllers, and we are going to make a index.js, which is the thing that's going to bootstrap all of our controllers. And so here comes the nice thing, and this is just one file structure that I often use. When you start working at other companies, you will see other practices. But what I like to do is I like to make one controller file for one data resource. So in this case, we are working on to-dos. I'm going to make to-dos.js. We could call it controller.js, which is something you'll see somewhere else. But in this case, the folder already says, hey, everything that's in here is a controller. So we now have 2 files, an index.js and a to-dos.js. And just for the example, I'm going to also make a users.js. And in the same breath, while we're at it, I'm going to also make a folder for users to-dos. So this is something that maybe you haven't done yet, but you will be doing this week, which is making nested resources. So we're going to separate words by a hyphen or a minus. We're going to put everything in there. So for now, I'm just going to leave these files where they are. I'm just going to put some empty text in there, which is the use strict, which is important. But I'm not going to export, like make any code in there yet. Same thing for these files. Just put the use strict statement in there. Okay, so just to show you my git status right now. So you can see I just made a library file folder. Say git add a, so we can see a little bit more. So it recognizes those 4 files. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut this out of here. This will keep working as it is, except for the endpoints are currently now not working anymore. So let me close these files. So the first thing is this index.js. We're going to use this file only to point to all the other subfiles. Why we're going to do this is just nice that our index.js of the whole application can be worried about very high level things and just require all the controllers. So I'm going to paste that in there. This is the stuff that we've already been making. So as you can see, we need the app object. We need it in our index.js. How can we do that? So there's multiple ways of doing that. in this case, because it's a bootstrapping process, what that exactly means I won't discuss right now, but because we just need that app object only once during the initialization phase, I'm just going to do it like this. I'm going to say const, so it's just the same as saying var, but it's a little couple of different rules. I like it working like this. Controllers is require current folder /lib /controllers. Oh, typo. So what does this do? It requires whatever is exported by the controllers folder. You're going to say, hey, that's weird. How can a folder export something? Well, as you might have seen before, if you have a folder, then this is just the way JavaScript and Node work. By default, if you point to a folder, it's going to be looking for an index.js. So index.js is not just a random name, it actually means something in the program. So I'm going to require this. And now we have to find a way how we can pass this app object into this file. So we're going to need it once, like I said. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say controllers, and then I'm going to say app. So as you can see, I'm going to make whatever is exported by this file or this folder, I'm going to make it into a function. So how do I do that? I'm going to say module.exports is function, can just be an anonymous function, and it accepts one parameter, the app. Remember, I can also just put here some plants or whatever, so long I give it a name. It's not the same name as here because this is of course a function parameter. So within here I am going to say app. So I'm going to leave this guy out for just a bit because that's a next level thing. So I want you to understand that. So the index.js, the main file that Node will execute, will run. It will require this function that we define here. And in the next line, we execute this function. And how we can actually rewrite this, and I'm going to do that right now because we won't be reusing this controllers object, so we don't need to put it into a var. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do this, remove the control, and just pass this behind this. So what does this do? This requires a function. The result is the function, and we immediately execute it, and we have no reference to it after that, so we cannot reuse it. But we don't need to, because the only thing that this needs to do is load this file and give it this object. So let's see if this works. I am going to go to Postman. 1 second, I have another screen going on. Okay. So I'm going to go to Postman and let me first start the app. Oops. Let's see if there's going to be any. I think MySQL is going to give me some issues at first. Okay, cool. So we have Node is starting up, but this is a bug coming from MySQL, which I haven't got running right now. So I'll fix this in a little bit, so I can just finish this video. I'm just going to stop it from wanting to start MySQL because we don't need it for this example. I'm going to go back to Postman. I'm going to say get root. Okay, message is okay, which is exactly what we are passing here. For example, API is up and running. So one last thing in this video, I'm going to do the same trick, but now for to-dos. So again, this file, the only purpose, and this is something that's very important when you're writing software, is you have to try to make files that do one thing and one thing only. It can be one concept. For example, this guy manages or bootstraps all controllers. And this file, the todos.js, is going to do one thing, which is manage everything related to to-dos. So we're going to put this in here. Now we need the same thing. We're going to do things a little bit different here, and this is just due to the way Express works. We are going to say app.use. So I'll show you why this is. Express.js. I just wanted to give you, I think it's in here. We have app.use. So I'll post this link as well. So there's many ways we can do this. I just want to, so also you see router.use. So there's many ways to use this. I'm just going to show you one way that I really like. So we're going to say app.use, and we're going to say everything behind to-dos. We're going to make a special router for that. So we're going to say require current folder / to-dos. So what are we doing here? We are telling Express to use for every endpoint that starts with to-dos to use this object. That's basically the syntax how that works. So we need to export something in this file that can be used here. So we're not going to start another application, but we are going to start something else, which is a router. I think you've used that before. I'm going to say module.exports. I'm going to say that at the very end is router. Or actually, let's call it to-dos router, just to make it more clear. Here we're going to say module const router is require express dot router. Make it a new object. I think that's the syntax. Let me just verify that for 1 second. Yeah, that's capital. So as you can see, to-dos router. So now we're not going to say app.get. We're going to say app to-dos router dot route, or we can say dot get. Okay, so we can do it like this. So also we don't have MySQL right now, so I'm just going to say response dot status 200 JSON. Okay, just to verify that our routing setup works. So let's see. So just to recap, we have told our main Express application to use for every route that comes after to-dos to require to-dos. What is exported here is a to-dos router. So I need to make one more change, and this is something that you guys just have to understand from this setup. Is how this works is that every time you tell Express to do app.use, it's going to extend it. So we said, of course, first you have to-dos. So every time you tell it to do app.use, it basically does a plus for the string. So actually what's happening now is that we have the route that we've made is to-dos / to-dos, and that's one to-dos too many, of course. So this is a little bit confusing because you have these separate files, but I think once you get to understand this pattern, you'll like it. So I'm just going to remove this, and so we have to remove this guy. So let's go back to Postman, see if to-dos works. I think I have to restart my server. Cool, so that's working. So just to show you what I just meant is, if we put to-dos here, it's going to build this to-dos on top of this to-dos, because we're going to say to-dos require to-dos. So we just have to give it an empty one. We can give it a custom name, sort of like a list, in which case this guy doesn't exist anymore, but we just made this. Don't forget the slash. Okay, so now we've done that. So I like to keep it just like this. So this. So just to show you how we're now going to collaborate, we can do this. Batch. Batched. So everything that's built on top of this to-dos router is put into the to-dos. So now if I make a new request, batch to-do, cool, so that's working as well. So that was just to explain to you the file structure. So in the next video I'm going to move away the MySQL boot up, because this is also something that the main file should not be concerned about.